That may be the greatest catch I've ever seen in my life.
Okay, my dudes, I cannot believe we are back here. We are back at it. We are going to get some week 1 running back rankings out. And y'all know we are going to be doing this every single week this season. So make sure you are subscribed to the channel. Make sure you hit the bell next to the subscribe button. That way you can come out to these video premieres, because we premiere every single video where I hang out in the live chat. I answer your questions. And also, we live stream every single night where I'm answering questions there as well. So make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you hit that bell. Drop a like on the video. And here, I'm going to be doing this a little differently. I think because for week 1, we have the smallest amount of information than we are going to be working with throughout the entire season. Instead of putting out precise, exact week 1 rankings, let's do a tier list, because I think that a tier list is going to be very impactful for what we could actually have in terms of just going, okay, well, I mean, yeah, we want to break our tiebreakers in the direction that you want your guy, but at least you know that if you're looking to start someone that's above the other tier, then, I mean, we should really be thinking that over. Now, guys, before we get into it, y'all know what I have to do, and that is come out here and tell you all about Underdog Fantasy, where we are drafting every single night. I mean, this is where I'm live streaming every single day as well. And with Underdog Fantasy, they're going to be doing so many fun things this upcoming season that you need to take advantage of. And the best thing ever is, guys, you can go and sign up for Underdog Fantasy with promo code FLOCK. You can get my 2021 rankings, get my 2021 draft guide, and with promo code FLOCK on Underdog Fantasy, when you make that $10 deposit, you actually get $25 added to your account as well, and it's the best way to support the channel. You can find that link in the description of the video, and that's it. Let's dive into it, and let's start it off with our first tier of running backs, and leading us off here, we are going to have Christian McCaffrey at 1. Now, very little to say. Everybody kind of saw this coming. I mean, you start CMC every single week. I really don't even need to talk about that this much. However, I mean, guys, it's Christian McCaffrey, and he's going up against the Jets. I mean, this is going to be a spot where I think Carolina can easily win this game. I think that you're going to see Christian McCaffrey heavily utilized in the receiving game as well as the rushing game. As always, very little to say. Don't want to say anything more than that. CMC, don't start anybody over him. You already know that. Let's move to Dalvin Cook as the only other running back in this tier. Now, Dalvin Cook going up against the Cincinnati Bengals here. And with Dalvin, I mean, this is a great matchup for Minnesota, because we know the Bengals defense, they're not going to be good whatsoever. And I'm actually a believer in the Cincinnati Bengals in 2021 from what their offense can do and with how many points their offense are going to be putting up. But the problem is, I mean, you're not betting on the Bengals for the beginning part of the season. I mean, you're betting on the Bengals. We're drafting a Jamar Chase. We're drafting a T. Higgins. We're drafting a Joe Mixon for the back half stretch in 2021, because that's when Jamar Chase can break out. That's when the overall offense can elevate, and that's when you'll have Joe Burrow very comfortable under center there. So I actually think the offense is probably going to start a little slow this upcoming season. So yeah, I mean, Minnesota should easily handle this game. Dalvin Cook should be Dalvin Cook. He should be a workhorse running back. And that's going to be it for the top tier of running backs. I think that we are actually going to drop down to tier 2, where here in tier 2, we can lead this off with Derrick Henry. And now with the Derrick Henry, I mean, this is obviously someone that you draft every single week. You start him every single week. I mean, but here he's actually going up against Arizona. And with Arizona, while yes, this has been a team over the past 2 seasons, they have poured a resource after resource after resource into that defense, especially in the NFL draft, going through and trying to shore up some spots. I mean, still not a good defense whatsoever. And I think that this has sneaky potential to be one of the highest scoring games of the week. I mean, Arizona versus Tennessee. Of course, this is going to be the first game that we actually see Tennessee without Arthur Smith, and I can already tell you what's going to happen. Yes, we ranked Ezekiel Elliott. Yes, we ranked Saquon Barkley, both over Derrick Henry in a full PPR format. I can already tell you that after week 1, when Derrick Henry crushes a no bueno Arizona Cardinals defense, I mean, I'm going to have some haters down there in the comment section going, Mason, you were wrong. Mason, you were wrong. Do you not see his 130 rushing yards? Do you not see his rushing touchdown? We're just going to have to live with it. But Derrick Henry is probably going to be a top 3 running back this week. Now, our next running back is going to be Alvin Kamara. And Alvin Kamara is going up against a tougher matchup. So, yeah, we're actually going to be ranking Alvin Kamara for week 1 below Derrick Henry, even though we definitely prefer having Alvin Kamara for the long term. And here with Alvin Kamara, he's going up against the Green Bay Packers. Now, this is a spot where there's so much unknown. And that's why I really want to do this as a tier list, because we are looking at this and saying, week 1 is going to be when everybody, for whatever reason, thinks that they can be overly confident that they know exactly what's going to happen. And we are working with the least amount of information possible. So this is going to be the first time that we see this Saints offense without Drew Brees to prepare throughout the entire offseason. So maybe we're going to get Jameis Winston starting the entire game, but maybe we get Taysom Hill worked into some different packages. Now, this is going to be a game that I am probably watching throughout its entirety on Sunday, even though, NFL Red Zone is the way to go. But I really want to see what the New Orleans Saints are going to be doing here, because while, yes, this is a tough matchup for Alvin Kamara, while, yes, you have to start him as a top 5 running back, there's a lot of unknown with this overall offense. And now, staying with this same game, let's go over and let's target an Aaron Jones. Now, with Aaron Jones, I know New Orleans has a good defense. I know New Orleans is a very well-run team, but I actually think that Aaron Jones, he is probably going to be someone that at least through the first 4 or 5 weeks in the season, he pretty much is going to look identical to Alvin Kamara. Now, y'all know I've been a little hesitant on Aaron Jones, and the reason why we haven't ranked him as a top 5 pick, and instead I think that he's a pick that you want at the end of the first round, is I'm afraid A.J. Dillon near the back half of this upcoming season is going to get some utilization at the goal line. Now, of course, A.J. Dillon most likely taking the Jamal Williams workload, Jamal Williams going over to Detroit, and if he just takes that and that alone, Aaron Jones is a top 5 running back in fantasy. Now, this is going to be a matchup against New Orleans that we have to tamper our expectations a little bit, but a big thing is, I think A.J. Dillon, at least for the beginning part of the season, he may not necessarily have that goal line role. That may have to be something that he actually goes out there and earns. So I think Aaron Jones is going to be regular Aaron Jones here, so we are going to have them in tier 2. And now dropping down to tier 3, you are going to see this is where it gets hard to rank some of these players. That's why this tier is about to be a big one. Get ready to hear like 10 names in this tier. And let's start it off with Jonathan Taylor. So here with Jonathan Taylor, he's going up against Seattle. And I will say that we're not worried about the Seattle defense at all, to be completely honest. But what we're worried about is we're worried about the just overall health to both Quentin Nelson and Carson Wentz. Now, Carson Wentz should be on track for week 1. That should not be really a problem at all. But, at the same time, Carson Wentz missed the preseason. Carson Wentz missed an extended period of training camp. So I think this will also be another offense that, while I love Jonathan Taylor and we are advising him drafting at the back half of round 1, the beginning of round 2 in your fantasy draft this season, I'm not going to be surprised at all if Jonathan Taylor actually starts a little slow here. Now, maybe you actually see just the Indianapolis Colts with Carson Wentz go out there and look like a fantastic offense. However, it's going to be hard for me to get that excited about Taylor right away. So honestly, I don't even know if I would rank him at the top of this tier. He definitely belongs in the tier, however, because this is clearly one of the most talented running backs in the NFL, and he's playing behind a hell of an offensive line. So now our next running back, he's going to be someone that you have to start. Like, this is about getting to the range with the James Robinson where you could consider, benching the running back that you most likely drafted in round 4, round 5. But no, James Robinson, this week against the Houston Texans is a complete smash. We know that Jacksonville is going to go out there. They're probably going to put on a clinic against Houston. It's going to look like a very ugly game, however, but we're just expecting Houston to be the worst team in the NFL. And honestly, I don't even think it's going to be relatively close. So this is like the perfect scenario for Urban Meyer and Trevor Lawrence to go out there and get a hot start going for the Jacksonville Jaguars. We have to remember the Jags have not won a game since week 1 last season. So, hey, this is their week. They're the kings of week 1. I actually think that you're going to have James Robinson just utilized as the running back that is draining the clock at the back half of the game. I think he's going to get a lot of touches. I think they're going to have trips to the red zone, and they're going to have the possession the majority of the game. So, yeah, James Robinson, going to be a top 10 running back this week. Now, yes, we are going to have James Robinson ahead of this next guy in Nick Chubb. But with Nick Chubb, this is a very bad matchup going up against the Kansas City Chiefs. This is a spot where you're going to be looking at it going, well, are we expecting the Browns to be that competitive in this game? If you look at the over-under right now, it doesn't necessarily indicate that the Browns are going to be right in there. And if this game gets out of hand, I actually think that we may see a little more used with a Kareem Hunt compared to a Nick Chubb, but that would be at the end of the game. However, I still think Nick Chubb is a top 12 running back this week. You're still starting Nick Chubb regardless. We're in the top tier right here, but I still think that we need to go through and we need to just hinder our expectations slightly because we know that the Chiefs, they're going to be putting up a lot of points, and that's not necessarily fantastic for the first and second down running back here. Now, our next running back is going to be Ezekiel Elliott. And with Ezekiel Elliott, I mean, obviously we have him ranked a lot higher than this for this upcoming season, but the problem is he's going up against Tampa in week 1, going up against the Super Bowl defending champs. And this is just going to be a game where I think if we're going to see the Dallas Cowboys win this game, it's going to turn into a shootout. I mean, don't be surprised if you just see this game go over 800 total yards for both offenses. I mean, obviously not both offenses each, but combined. I mean, you could see just Tom Brady throwing for 360 passing yards. You could see Dak Prescott going out there and throwing for 380 because this game has serious shootout potential. So yes, Ezekiel Elliott's going to have some touchdown upside, but I don't necessarily think that they're going to be trying to win the game with their defense. I think they're going to have to go out there and they're going to have to throw the ball aggressively against Tampa. Now, our next running back is going to be Antonio Gibson against the Los Angeles Chargers. Now, not a great matchup for Antonio Gibson. However, I mean, we're just looking at this going, well, I mean, he is someone that is continuing to show that he is going to expand his role in his offense. He is someone that has the talent, the athleticism, the size. So it's not necessarily the best matchup. I don't want to say it's the worst either. I think this can be a competitive game, surprisingly. So yeah, here with Antonio Gibson, just going to throw him into this tier. Najee Harris with our next running back spot. I mean, he's going up against Buffalo. It's going to be a very tough defense to go up against. I mean, at least in terms of just looking at the game flow as well. I mean, you are going to end up having Josh Allen, I'm assuming, put up a decent amount of points against the Pittsburgh Steelers. We know the Steelers this season are showing that they most likely want to win games by playing good defense and run the ball. But it's probably going to be harder to do that whenever you have Josh Allen on the opposing offense. I mean, I would imagine Josh Allen putting up a decent amount of points. And I think this could just be a pretty bad matchup for Pittsburgh. So now going over to a running back that I have ranked considerably higher than this for the season. But I think for week 1, there's some cause for concern. Let's throw Saquon Barkley into this mix. And here with Barkley, I mean, we have to put him a little bit lower just because the injury, just because we don't know exactly what the workload is going to look like. I mean, I will say what I would imagine is that I'd imagine that they maybe use Saquon Barkley as a running back getting 60 to 70% of the touches in week 1. And then in week 2, once they see that Barkley is good to go, then they decided to take the training wheels off. But just for this first week, I want to hamper expectations just a little bit on a Saquon Barkley. I mean, he is going up against Denver. That is a very good matchup. But at the same time, I mean, I think that we just have to be a little concerned with the workload. Now, our next running back is going to be Austin Ekeler. And here with Austin Ekeler, I mean, he's going up against a very tough defense. I mean, yes, he's going to be ranked considerably higher than this in our overall season rankings, but he's going up against Washington. You could easily make the argument that Austin Ekeler is going up against the toughest defense in the NFL. I mean, you could also make the argument that you would maybe want to drop him down a tier below this. However, I will say Austin Ekeler, I think, is actually a little more safe compared to what another running back would be going up against another defense. Like if you had someone like Ezekiel Elliott going up against Washington, I would actually ding Elliott a little bit more because Ezekiel Elliott's mainly betting on the effect that he can go out, get rushing yards, rushing touchdowns, and the overall offense can move the ball down the field effectively. Instead, with an Austin Ekeler, you're more so betting on the receiving down role, and that's not necessarily going to change that much. So Ekeler still is going to be in this massive running back tier. And the tiers going forward are probably not going to be this large, but it's just so hard given the fact that we don't have that much data to look at. Now, we're going to go to our next tier here, and we're going to start it off with running back 14 in Chris Carson. And here with Chris Carson, I mean, he is going up against Indianapolis. And this is a spot where, I mean, we do not know what we're going to see from Shane Waldron. I know a lot of people have said Mason Bryant Schottenheimer got fired because he didn't run the ball enough. Not sure that we can come out here and say that with confidence. I think that it's a little more of a gray area and that we don't necessarily know. It's going to be hard to predict, but we're going to get that answer in week 1. I think regardless, you should actually see the Seattle Seahawks be able to put up points. I think that Chris Carson, a very safe option to have in this tier. David Montgomery is going to be our next running back. And David Montgomery, you have to be worried about the matchup because I think the Bears, I mean, at least if you look at what Vegas is telling us, the Bears are a massive underdog against the Rams opening week. And here I think that you're looking at it going, well, if he's a massive underdog, while yes, David Montgomery showed that he is going to get utilization on the passing down situation with no other running back in the backfield last year, we don't necessarily know if that's going to be the exact case with Damian Williams. So this is going to be another situation that we definitely need to check in on week 1 and see what the touches look like, see what the snaps look like. It's a tough matchup for David Montgomery. So we are going to have him down here. And a running back that I have to call a must-start option. I mean, he is someone that you're going out there and starting regardless of what else you were looking at. Raheem Mostert, after I've just trashed this man all offseason. He's opening up week 1 against the Detroit Lions. He's opening up week 1. Yes, we know that Trey Sermon is eventually going to be the running back 1 in San Francisco. But that's not going to be at the very beginning of the season. Trey Sermon's more so some guy that you're looking at for the second half, more so some guy that you're looking at for the fantasy football playoffs, which definitely matters more in my opinion. However, with the Raheem Mostert, I mean, he's going to be the lead running back on one of the heaviest run teams in football against one of the worst teams in football in Detroit. So I already know we're going to have a lot of people out in the live stream. We're going to have a lot of people in the comment section in week 2 coming out and telling me, Mason, you idiot. Did you not see how good Raheem Mostert looked? Did you not see everything that happened? Did you not see Raheem Mostert finish as a top 15 running back this week? You idiot. Why did you tell us not to draft him? I told you not to draft him because not every week is week 1 and not every week is going up against the Detroit. Detroit is going to be an easy matchup. Raheem Mostert should be someone in your starting lineup. Now, Myles Sanders is going to be our next guy going up against Atlanta. Atlanta's another team that I want to look at. I mean, both of these offenses I want to look at. We have new head coaches for both of these offenses, as well as with a Myles Sanders. I mean, we're going to get to see exactly what the backfield touches look like. I mean, God, I can't wait for football. I cannot wait. We've been talking about this stuff for so long now. We're going to get some real answers. Myles Sanders is going to be in this tier for us. And yeah, just let's hope Kenneth Gainwell's not out there. Let's hope Boston Scott's not out there. Let's hope Myles Sanders is just seeing 70% of the touches in that backfield. That's all we need for Myles Sanders. And now for our next running back, we're going to go with a Gus Edwards. And I'm going to be completely honest. I'll give you all a little sneak peek behind how I do these rankings, how I do these tiers. As I go through and I make my initial list based on the matchups that I'm looking at this week. And then I go through, and especially when we don't have that much data that I can actually pull from currently, we go and we look at Vegas over-unders to try to predict how game flow is going to go. And to be honest, I had Gus Edwards ranked higher than this when we did our initial set of rankings. He was at the very top of this tier because I saw that he was going up against the Las Vegas Raiders. And I guess Las Vegas wants to give their own team much more credit than I thought they deserved, because this game's supposed to be surprisingly somewhat close against Baltimore, even though I thought Baltimore was most likely going to boat race this team. But if this game can remain relatively close, I don't necessarily think that we need to be just jacking up the ranking of a Gus Edwards. Having him here at running back 18 in this tier, I think is going to be a fine range for us. I mean, it's going to be a spot where we're definitely going to see him as a lead back, but how many touches does he get week 1? That's going to be the question. Now, our last running back in this tier, honestly, maybe I move him higher in this tier just considering the fact that the matchup looks so good, at least with what Vegas is telling us. But Darrell Henderson going up against Chicago. I know Chicago, you hear the name, you automatically think, oh, this is a great defense. It's not the defense it once was. I will say that for sure. And with Darrell Henderson, I mean, you're not necessarily going to be seeing Sony Michel worked into the game plan as much as you will later in the season. Sony Michel just got there, and the Rams are supposed to crush the Bears this upcoming week, according to Vegas. And obviously that bodes well for Darrell Henderson getting a lot of rushing attempts. So honestly, let me know what you think in the comment section, but I think we may have to raise Darrell Henderson up these rankings. Now let's go to our next tier, and let's start this one off with a running back that I have drafted everywhere. I was telling y'all to draft him ahead of other running backs that we've ranked higher. This is going to be Josh Jacobs. And while, yes, I was telling you to draft him over Henderson, over Gus Edwards, over Raheem Mostert, I mean, just with a Josh Jacobs, we can't get that excited about the matchup against a Baltimore, because the big thing with Jacobs is you want to be playing him in the games where the Raiders are going to be leading. You want to be playing him in the games where the Raiders are the heavy favorites, because he's that first and second down running back. He's that running back that's going to get the touches at the goal line. That's what we're drafting him for. We're not drafting him to get usage in the receiving game. So if we do have Baltimore getting out to a heavy lead, I mean, this could be a pretty bad week for our guy, Josh Jacobs. And now our next running back is going to be Chase Edmonds going up against Tennessee. Another player that I actually was telling y'all to go out there and draft. And I think this game could be a good game for Chase Edmonds, because you're looking at this as a scenario where, I mean, yes, they add in James Conner. We've said it a million times before. They paid James Conner literally like nothing. I'm not too concerned with what they actually gave James Conner. And to go along with this, with the Chase Edmonds, I mean, this could be a shootout. We already talked about this. This could be the highest scoring game of the week. I know that sounds crazy, but I mean, we don't know what this Tennessee Titans offense is going to look like. Maybe without Arthur Smith and with Julio Jones, they push the pace of play up. We already know that Cliff Kingsbury and the Arizona Cardinals are going to be running a lot of plays per game. So this could be very exciting for Chase Edmonds. Now, our next running back is going to be Melvin Gordon. And honestly, I may move Melvin Gordon up to the top of this tier as well because, I mean, I think right now just my overall rankings are maybe leaking in a little bit too much here because if we're just talking week one, where we know Melvin Gordon is going to be the starting running back over Javonte Williams. I definitely prefer Javonte Williams for the entire season, but for week one, that guy's Melvin Gordon going up against the Giants. Denver, I don't love them as a team this year. I would be very surprised if they're going to be fighting for a spot for the playoffs. However, I'll say going up against the Giants, a Giants team that has injuries everywhere, they should be able to go out there and most likely win the game. And obviously, that's kind of what you're looking for with a Melvin Gordon. Now, our next running back is going to be Myles Gaskin against New England. With Myles Gaskin here, I've said this with every running back, but I can't wait to see what we have. I can't wait to see how many touches Malcolm Brown is getting, how many touches Salvin Ahmed is getting. Or are they just giving everything to Myles Gaskin? Now, New England, definitely a very tough matchup. I will say that for sure. But who knows? Maybe Mac Jones surprises some people. Maybe Mac Jones makes some uncharacteristic turnovers given the fact that he is a rookie quarterback after all. And then you could actually see the Miami Dolphins getting the ball on the correct area of the field for Myles Gaskin to be putting up fantasy points. Going to be interesting. And our last running back here, you know what? We're going to move this last running back ahead of Myles Gaskin. Not ahead of anybody else. We're not moving him ahead of Chase Edmonds, but this is going to be Mike Davis. And here with Mike Davis, another running back that I actually think that we need to move him up one more spot than that. We'll move him up over Chase Edmonds just because while, yes, I mean, the projection looks very safe for week one in the beginning part of the season, I do have questions on what we're going to see as the season progresses. Like if he is still the starting running back there by the time we get to week 9, week 10. But as of now, going up against Philadelphia, I think it's a decent matchup. I think the Falcons can win. And yes, there are a lot of unknowns with this situation. We don't know what Arthur Smith is going to do. We don't know what this offense is going to look like with Kyle Pitts and no Julio Jones. We don't know how they're exactly going to be using Mike Davis. But, I mean, we have some similar questions with other offenses here. So we will move Mike Davis slightly up this list. But he's 100% just going to be in this tier for us. I can't put him in the tier higher. Now, thank you, my dudes. That's 24 running backs. And if there's a player that I did not talk about on this list, feel free to go to the comment section. Let me know your thoughts on them. Ask me any questions you have. And also, we'll be live streaming every single night. So subscribe to the channel. Hit the bell next to the subscribe button. Come out to a live stream. Come to a premiere so you can ask me questions. And yeah, that's all I got for you, my dudes. Use promo code FLOCK on Underdog Fantasy. Get $25 added to your account. Get our rankings. Get our draft guide. And that's all I got. And I hope you have a great day. Thank you to everybody supporting the show on Patreon. We got some new members in MCGC, Brian, Matthew, Craig, Ian, Woody, Colt, Marcus, Jack, and Nicholas. Thank you, my dudes.